It's still unclear just what impact the new carbon arrangements will have on agriculture as Australia moves towards the establishment of an emissions trading scheme. But for every carbon credit, such as planting trees and leaving pasture intact, there's a debit, the cost of using fuel, fertiliser and other farm chemicals. Well, it's fair to say soil carbon sceptics still outnumber supporters. A couple of years back, Landline introduced viewers to one scientist who claims it's the key to farming profitably in a carbon economy.
For the last 2 years, retired soil scientist Dr Christine Jones has been travelling the country, talking to farmers and politicians, speaking at forums and field days, and running farm trials. It's a busy life, full of airports, hire cars, country roads and hotel rooms. Getting back to the bush near her home at Armidale in New South Wales helps her recharge.
I come home for a few days of solitude. This is where I work and live and think, and then go out into the world again.
Her home has been turned into Soil Carbon Central.
Kids have left home and all that sort of thing, and I can now just pursue that passion. It's a dream.
What keeps you going?
A belief that it will work, yeah. I absolutely, at a very deep level, I fundamentally believe, and I actually know at a deep level that it does work.
Christine Jones's message is simple.
Rebuilding carbon-rich agricultural soils is the only real, productive, permanent solution to taking excess carbon dioxide from the atmosphere.
She's frustrated that scientists and politicians don't see the same opportunities she sees.
This year, Australia will emit just over 600 million tonnes of carbon. We can sequester 685 million tonnes of carbon by increasing soil carbon by 0.5% on only 2% of the farms. If we increased it on all of the farms, we could sequester the whole world's emissions of carbon.
With modern farming practices to blame for depleting soil carbon, she says nothing short of a radical change in farming methods will turn things around.
There's widespread recognition that the carbon has been lost, but then to have to change everything completely in order to put it back is a big ask. Change is always difficult for people.
She says plants are the key to removing excess carbon dioxide from the air.
Up to 60% of the carbon that's fixed by the leaves of the plant can end up down in the soil.
As bare soil gives its carbon up to the atmosphere, she says the way to build soil carbon and keep it there is 100% ground cover all year round.
What we're trying to show is that if people manage land in a way that looks after the ground cover, that the carbon will increase.
While soil carbon credits won't be part of Australia's new emissions trading scheme, which starts next year, Christine Jones is confident that one day Australian farmers will be paid for the carbon they build.
They can build something like between 25 and 30 tonnes of carbon for every tonne of product that they produce. They can be so far on the right side of the ledger that there's no need to fear being included in an emissions trading scheme. We need a revolution in agriculture, and we do know what we can do. We have an answer, and it's a very simple answer, so it's just really a matter of implementing that.
Like most revolutionaries, though, opinions on her are divided.
Is she peddling false hopes?
I think until the data is there, it remains an open question.
Well, I think she's achieved some amazing things, and certainly it's now being talked about right through to Senate hearings.
I think the jury's still out.
I just feel very fortunate that we've linked up with her and able to help, because it's exciting stuff. It's all new.
I'm always worried when fads emerge in agriculture, and often they're not backed by good, solid information and data.
Yeah, using a retirement money, it's interesting, but that probably shows you the passion and commitment that someone has, and I just applaud her for it.
It is exciting, definitely exciting, but it's definitely blue sky stuff, that's for sure.
I'm still yet to see any solid data out of the work that Christine's done. And I don't think you can pass judgment until you see solid data. So I'm cautious about some of the claims that seem to be made.
People sometimes nicely say I'm a lone visionary. When they're not being nice, they say other things that I won't repeat.
Dr Jones knew that if her ideas were to carry any weight, that she'd have to show that farmers could profitably graze and crop their land and maintain permanent ground cover. 2 years ago, 18 farmers in 3 states agreed to trial her ideas. In return, she'd pay them $25 a tonne for the carbon they built.
We will be getting the first data in Australia from landholders that are doing something different and building carbon in their soil, and that'll be the basis of a whole new set of models and a whole new data set that can then be, hopefully, advisors can then take to their ministers and say, well, we have some new advice, Minister. The old advice, I'm sorry, wasn't right.
I sprayed some lubricant up in the gears there before.
Central Queensland cattle farmers Noel Moretti and his son Michael signed on. Attracted not just by the cash, but because they know that by adding carbon, they'll increase the fertility and water holding capacity of their soil.
It just made a lot of sense, and through that extra carbon it's going to store water, and our plants need water. And our country is drying out. We're being told every day just about now. So that seemed to be where we wanted to go.
Yeah, she's very excited and excites us as well. I think it really is for the good of our country.
By being carbon smart, the Morettis aim to lift farm income by 10%. And they're not the slightest bit bothered by Christine Jones' sceptics.
I guess no matter who you are, you'll always have those critics, and I think you just move on, and time will decide.
To build soil carbon the Christine Jones way, the Morettis undertook to maintain ground cover at all times.
What changes have you had to make so that you never have bare patches or bare paddocks?
We've been very precise on our ground cover, making sure we don't chew our grass down too far, and we've reaped the benefits. We've made a lot of money out of the extra growth.
At Christine Jones's urging, the Morettis also agreed to try pasture cropping. It's a pretty unconventional practice, as the crop is actually sown into pasture. In 2007, they grew an oat crop. It was a success.
And it was really good when it actually come through and just kept growing.
And it was quite strange to see a tuft of gatton panic with little oats plants up and over the top of it and down the other side and growing quite happily.
Last year, the Morettis tried wheat.
Still feel a bit weird to see that much grass and you're actually sowing a crop into it?
It's strange, that's for sure. But I guess I'm not a dyed-in-the-wool crop grower, so it's easier for me to see that and understand the concept.
The conventional wisdom is that there shouldn't be enough soil moisture to sustain both pasture and a grain crop. But Dr Jones claims farmers can have both, because soil high in organic carbon has better structure, is more fertile and holds more water.
We've got microbes that are bringing moisture from deeper down in the soil. We've got perennial grasses that are able to take moisture from the air overnight and put that back down through their root system.
So this has been sprayed out to put the lacuna in?
That's right.
Noel Moretti's convinced that pasture cropping works.
When you see grasses respond without rain, then that's what we're aiming for.
So what we're going to do is plant a crop into this bare area and into the buffel grass area, and we're going to measure everything that happens. We'll measure the carbon under it, the water under it, we'll measure the yield of the crop.
Well, that's the part that's exciting as far as we're concerned, to see what we can do and what is possible, and given that it's not been tried in this area.
Dr Jones is used to pasture cropping sceptics.
So everywhere around Australia, people say it won't work here, with very good expert opinion, very nice people, in fact, saying it won't work here. And then when they do it, it works. We've chosen to go to the most difficult areas to sequester carbon. So, hot, dry environments, as in central Queensland and in the northern agricultural region of Western Australia. Once we've shown that the concept works here, it'll be absolute walk-in for Tasmania.
Mining company Rio Tinto has kicked in $30,000 to help fund Christine Jones's work. They're interested in the bigger picture.
The challenge for climate change is so huge. We need to have as many options, as many solutions, and if the worst is that, if no carbon credits come out of it, but we get improved soil productivity, if we get improved water retention out of people adopting these techniques, that's going to help in an adaptation mechanism for the changing climate that we're all told we're likely to have. So I don't see any downside in this, and the upside is huge. Potential upside is huge.
What do you think about the achievements so far?
Look, the anecdotal evidence looks very exciting and the enthusiasm she seems to be getting in the different communities. She sends through pictures often, and also, some of her discussions, she's, tells us when she's been to the Senate committee and talked to them. So, the energy of the lady is just really impressive. And, we're looking forward to seeing when we actually do get the results in.
But of all the support Christine Jones has received to date, none is more fascinating than the backing from Singapore-based businesswoman Rhonda Wilson. The pair met when they sat next to each other at a conference.
And I told her about what I was trying to do and said that we couldn't get any funding to do it. And we'd been trying for years and years and years, and I have got folders of letters come back from all of Australia's major R&D corporations saying that they don't think soil carbon's important and they don't think that you can measure it, and very nice application, thank you very much, Christine, but we're not interested. And I was just explaining that to Rhonda, and she said, well, how much do you need?
Rhonda Wilson won't say how much she's given. Suffice to say, it was enough for Christine Jones to set up the Australian Soil Carbon Accreditation Scheme.
The Australian Soil Carbon Accreditation Scheme is about measuring carbon to show that farmers can build it, that we can measure it, and that they can be rewarded for building that carbon. So in order for them to be financially rewarded, we needed money for what we call soil carbon incentive payments.